There we go. All right, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started here. Back in September, I did projects in '04, and then in October, did some project tile, actually some monitor tiles. Got a lot of good feedback on that, which was encouraging to say the least. The project monitor tile and the order monitor tile, basically looking at your projects and orders just for issues that most people miss until there's an issue. We'll leave it at that. But if you missed all that, go take a look at the webinar or send support a note. They can send you a link to that webinar if you need. I was hoping to do a orders training on that. We found a few things we wanted to improve upon before we actually did that. So it looks like in January I'll be able to actually do that training if I can squeeze in a little bit of time and actually to go out and train some folks. So we'll see which one happens and the timing on that. So today we're doing some exciting new tiles, and I get to show what they are. There's really two of them. I should have placed it here. One of them is the I'll go just jump around in the slide set. I always like having slides. I'm old school, I guess. But one of them is, well, we'll kind of go through it right here. So we have a quote follow-up tile. Show you that. That's really designed for the inside, or actually the sales force, so basically the company side, to follow up on quotes. I've already been talking with a few beta users on this one, and they really have a focus on this right now, as a lot of folks do, and it sounds like we may have a solution at least help them. So hopefully we'll show this and everyone can give us some more feedback on it too. And it's mostly for the outside sales and quoters. It sounds like may like it as well. And then we have a shipping notification tile. We've been playing with these ideas for a while, but the main thing is project managers. I talked to a lot of them have the spreadsheet or they use Oasis to email out shipping notifications manually. This automates all that. So show you how that works. This is both these are in beta, so kind of go slow, give us feedback, and I'll give you all the details there. So those are the two ones, quote follow-up tile and shipping notification tile. Okay. Dig in the first one is quote follow-up tile. I always like showing a little bit of the goals here. The conversation I've been having with the beta users is not to overcomplicate things, because there's a lot of different things we could do. But what we're finding is in some cases, people are doing slightly different things. So we're going to split those into different tools or tiles, if you will, as we go forward. So this is one tile that we have, and there's already some talk about having a similar tile to do similar things. I'm going to tell you exactly what this quote follow-up tile and it's based upon these goals, based on what it does here. So basically we come up with a list of active quotes. The main thing here is you have to send a quote out to somebody before this thing works. The thought process here is if you have a quoter that puts a quote in the system, they may actually be saying, hey, we're going to no quote this thing, or nothing may go anywhere. But as soon as you send a quote out to somebody, anybody, the system flags it, says, okay, that's an active quote. Now, what comes off that list of active quotes for a follow-up is we got an order. I mean, why follow up on it at that point? The service team has it at that point, hopefully, and there's no issues, double hopefully there. But the main thing is I need to follow up on the balance, if you will, and leaving a few details out there is obviously. Okay, we have a list of follow-ups to review. There's a few filters we're adding on this, and we may add more of the filters. You'll see this pretty quick. I like following up on my quotes, but I'm not going to follow up on my, Trinity's quotes. She has her own job. She needs to go take care of her own stuff. So that's really what we're trying to do here on the filters is say whose quotes that I'm following up on. Mine, obviously, or maybe I'm a manager and I'm taking a look at, what's going on in the company. So I can ignore specific quotes. I'll show you how to do that. So if there's this quote out there, we're not going to get it. I don't mind taking a look at it occasionally, but I'm basically going to ignore the thing. I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty quick and easy too. And then identify the quotes that have not been followed up on. So kind of well, I'll show you here in a second on the details here. The main thing is there's stuff I need to follow up on now. That's my active list of things to work on. And then I have a list of quotes that I'm just waiting on the customer to make a decision. I mean, I can pester them all the time, but at some point they have to, go through whatever back-end process they have to do to make the decision. All right, so that's kind of the goals on this quote follow-up tile. And I'll go into the setup here. I tell you what, I'll do pretty much what I did on the last one. I'll show you a little bit of what's going on here. We have some setup and some filters. I'll show you exactly how that works within the actual system here in a second. And this is basically what's going to look like, showing some details here. I'll go through the gory details here. And then I'll show you the exact tabs here. So let's just go into the system. I like that better. And then jump back and forth. So to create a tile, I'll actually show you the tile here in a second. So my follow-ups here, sorry, my screen's a little bit small. Let me see if I can zoom just a little bit. There we go, that's a little bit better. So the main thing here is I have my follow-ups. You can name it whatever you want, but these are mine. If you're a manager, you may actually be monitoring maybe a few folks that you're managing. So you can say Bob's follow-ups, Brian's follow-ups, Trinity's follow-ups, and filter those out. So let's take a look at that for a second. Well, I actually back up here. I'm going to go to tiles and create one. I'll just show you how they're created. And by the way, these are in beta at the moment. The date that we'll take the beta off there is at least 6 months from a major rewrite. So we're looking about June before we'll actually consider it not beta, if you will. And the reason for that is we just like that amount of time to make sure that we get all the feedback we need on it. So, and actually I could probably do a little bit. This one's been used for a little bit, so I might be able to take it off a little sooner than that. But anyway, I forgot go in the quote follow-up here. The setup on this is pretty easy. You give it the name like I was hinting at before and say Bob's follow-ups, Brian's follow-ups, Trinity's follow-ups, just so I know kind of what was going on this follow-up tool. Tile location, I always use home page. There's ways you can move it around. That's for another conversation. And then do I want to show this to someone else? Maybe I'm setting up Trinity's tile. I can put Trinity's name in here and leave mine on here so I can monitor what she's doing. You can also receive an email recap. This is an email that comes out at night and says, here are the new ones that you need to follow up on. It's just a nice nightly email. Works really good. I didn't think ahead to actually show you an example of that, so I apologize. We'll do that next time and put it out with the publications or the documents. So the main thing is when you're following up on quotes, we're trying to find out what's the frequency in which we want to actually go back and talk to the customer base. So we come up with different ways. So one is maybe I'm a quoter, and that's the reason for this, what we call filter data source here. It says quotes last week. So if I send a quote out, maybe I follow up on once the next week. Again, if I'm just doing quick turn, maybe distributor type spacing stuff, real basic stuff. So I'll just follow up on one time and then that's it. I won't be bugged again on it. But there are other filters in here, other data sources, what we're calling it. And I can say, well, I only want to see the ones that are about to expire. Maybe there's a process I have there in the company to deal with that. The other one is bi-weekly quote follow-up. So every other week, it'll ask you to follow up on a quote. So if today I send a quote out, or my quoter that I work with, so I'm the salesperson, and the quoter sends a quote out to all my customers, or one of my customers anyway, then in 2 weeks, I'll get a note to follow up on that. And I'll show you what that process is in a second. It's really easy. You just put a note in, really. But the main thing is it's every other week, or I can do monthlies. So once a month, I'll get, really it's about every 30 days, if you will. But about every 30 days, I'll get a follow-up on it until it expires. Now, that's the other part that will happen is, once the quote expires, it again comes off the list. Sorry, I should have made a little more note on that one previously. But if they requote it, obviously it goes back in the queue if they reset that expiration date. And then bi-monthly on that one, every other month. Most people have like 60 or 90-day expiration dates. So watch that. If you're doing bi-monthly and you have a 60-day expiration on that, you probably won't get much of a chance on it. But if you have 90-day, you might get one and then a final shot at following up on the quote. And anyway, watch the expiration dates because that does remove it from the list of active quotes. Okay. Email quoted customer. This is something we're working on. It isn't quite ready, but this is something, if you have the customer portal, it will become an item where we can go out. Again, it just sends them a note and does the same thing. Hey, thank you for business. Any update on this quote? So look for that. This one's definitely in beta right now. And again, I should have saved an example quote, email so I could show that today. So apologies on that. All right, filters. So here's why I'd put in Trinity's name. Again, if I'm setting up a tile for Trinity, I'd have to put her name up here so she would see it on her home screen and get the email, obviously. And then I'd also have to put in Trinity's name here. So that would filter it back. And then I'd say, okay, I only want her to follow up on, or this tile to be focused on her specifier. So maybe she's calling on specifiers. And then again, if the quote goes out, one of her specifiers on it, let's say it's last week, she'll get an email that says, hey, follow up on this quote. And we'll get some details there. The rest of these are pretty much what you'd expect. Oasis speak, if you're familiar with this, if you've ever run a report in Oasis, I'll kind of go over these here in a second. But if you have any questions on what I'm about to go down through, the filters here, ask, because these are common support questions we get. But if you put a person's name in here, it's my specifiers, then one of my specifiers has to be on the general tab of the quote. My sales accounts, I have to get credit on it. And again, I would use one of these personally. So either it's my specifier, where I'm going to focus on the fact I'm getting credit on the quote, or maybe it's one of my distributors, because maybe that's my goal. I'm calling on distribution, so that'll focus there. Or contractors. So maybe I'm a contractor person. Okay. You can also set this whole tile up just for a quoter. I wouldn't use any of this if I want to just focus on quoters. So if I'm a quoter and I just want to follow up on a certain, maybe the small quotes that go out, maybe I'll set a threshold here and put my name in there and create a tile. Okay. That's the setup on this. Again, if you ever get stuck on this, ask, because it's kind of Oasis-esque things in here. And sometimes it gets a little confusing in there. But once you understand the data system, it usually works pretty straightforward. So, any questions so far, Trinity? Otherwise, I'm going to show how this thing works.
No questions so far.
All right. So let's dig into one of these. I have mine set up. Now, I canned this all up over the weekend because I want to make sure I did it right this time. So if I'm on my home screen, my phone or whatever, I'm going to see the number of quotes. These are the active quotes that I have. So I have 7 quotes. I better get busy. That's only 7 out there. But the main thing is, those are quotes that a customer has been sent a quote and it hasn't passed the expiration date yet. Okay. And a total of 6 follow-ups. Basically, it wants me to call all but one of my quotes for some reason. It wants me to follow up on this time. Next week, because I have this one, just kind of knowing this, it's every other week I have it set up. So every other week it's going to say, hey, follow up on this thing. So anyway, if I click into it, then what I have is the following sections, if you will, or tabs, if you look at an old school. But you have the follow-ups. These are the ones I need to go take a look at. I'll show you how to follow up on each one of these in a little bit. But this is a task list. In other words, if I go through here, my goal is to make all these go away. And I'll show you that process here in a second. When I follow up on one, again, I'll show you that process in a second. It'll go over to the waiting queue over here. So on this one, it says, hey, last month, this one, there's nothing going on yet. So whatever this quote is here, it's just not time to follow up on it. I'm letting my customer make the decision. Okay. This one I went ahead and did a follow-up on over the weekend, and it just came to this list. So again, the first tab, or the first section here, is what I need to go do. And as I go and do my follow-ups, they come over here. And until next time, they'll stay here. So it basically gives you the every other week or every other month, or whatever you have set up on your tile here, gives them enough time to make the decision and get back with you. Okay. Also, there's an ignored list. Okay. I literally went in here and I set one to ignore. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And all the emails that go out, I can see those. So every email that goes out, I'm able to really take a look at here. So, all right, let's do a follow-up. I'm going to go into follow-ups. I'll just take the first example here. Sorry about the very bland and testy or bad examples here as far as quote names here. But the main thing is, if I come in here, I have a couple of sections inside this general overview. First thing is, if I click on the project name, it will take me to the actual project in Oasis. This is the sales view, has all the details there. If you've been on one of the webinars or one of the trainings before, this is exactly what you've seen in the past. In other words, it's showing you everything about the quote, including the bill of material and other details. But typically what I'll do is I'll stay here on this section here and do my follow-up unless I need more information. And that's the main thing, is that link allows you to go dig a little deeper if you need more information. Okay. So now, maybe this one I don't care about. Maybe I know something, so I'll just simply say, or for whatever reason, I'll ignore it. No, we'll just do that for today. So I click ignore quote. Again, I can do this on my phone. I don't have to be on a computer or a desktop or a laptop or whatnot. I say ignore quote and then save it. What happens is it immediately goes to the ignored list. Also notice it removed it from this list, this follow-up list where I'm at right now, and it adds it over here. That allows you, if you go, whoops, wrong one, I can come back into it, unignore it, and save that quote, probably because I got yelled at by my boss. But the main thing is it pulls it back out of the ignore list, back on the follow-up list. Okay. So now let's actually do a follow-up on that same one. I click on OK, that particular project. And what I'm able to do here are a couple of things that are important. The first one is I can take a look at how likely I think this job is to go. It begins with unknown because that's kind of the default setting. And I think I'm going to get this one for whatever reason. And what you're able to do in the conversations here is talk about why that is. So sounds good. Okay, so maybe my customer's a little queasy about the shipping because he got burned in the past or whatever, but they do like that new product. And that's my note I'm going to put on here and say, it sounds like I got a good feeling on this thing. It's probably going to happen. Okay, that's all I need to know right now. I've talked to John, I guess is my contact here, and I'll hit save quote. Main thing is it pulled it off my list and it's back over on this waiting list, and it tells me exactly what happened here. So I followed up on this today, December 12th. And again, I can click into it and see the actual note that I put in there and keep adding, and I can add more notes as I go. And again, sorry about the weird names in here. It's test database is what I have. But if other people get in here and do the same thing, maybe they're following up on, with the distributor and I'm doing the spec side, I'll see Trinity's notes in here as well. So we start to form a picture of what's going on with this job. Okay. And everyone seems pretty likely about this as well, or at least that's what I hope. Okay. The other thing you can do in here that's kind of interesting is I can put the notes in very specific to the customer. So that's this section down below, and right now it just shows distributors. We're talking about showing the specifiers as well. But the main thing is it's the distributor's decision on this, and that's the reason why we're really trying to focus on the likelihood of that particular distributor making that decision. By the way, if you're a distributor using Oasis, it'd be the contractor. Same concept. It works well. Just unfortunately, this database is set up like a rep. So, but I can do the same thing and say, hey, likely it's going to happen, and I put in my notes about why I think that is important. Hit save, and as soon as I do that, it did the same thing. It said, okay, you just did a follow-up on that. I'm going to let that distributor make that customer, allow that customer to make a decision and not pester them a lot. So, all right, that is the quote follow-up tile. It is meant to be simple. It is meant to be something you can set up, utilize real quick, and do follow-ups. And again, I'm a manager here as well. What I like is I like using the term kill list or to-do list, if you will. And that's what this is meant to be. As long as you click here, you will see the list of follow-ups, and your whole goal is make that list go away. And once it's done, then you can focus on the next set of work. So it's a process-driven tool, if you will. All right. That's the quote follow-up tool. Trinity, do I have any questions?
No, not on my end.
Uh-oh, I hope I'm not boring everybody. All right, we're going to go on the last one. So the shipping tile. The shipping tile, let's go ahead and create one real quick. It's, again, designed to be very simple, but at the same time, very powerful. And that's, again, really what we're trying to do with some of these tools. Instead of trying to make one tool that does everything, Swiss Army knife type thing, we're trying to make them very simple to set up, very simple to use, and then we'll create other tiles if there's a similar business process being done, but it's outside that main one. So just keep them simple and approachable. All right, tiles. Create one. And the shipping notification tile, it is in beta. And again, we give about 6 months before we remove this logo out there, but it works. Just kind of go slow. Now, this one does a few things. So first thing, as far as the setup, you can name it whatever you want. Most groups are going to have one shipping notification tile. It is okay if you have multiple, and I'll explain that here in a second. It won't send the same customer multiple emails on the same order. It figures all that out, and I can get in the weeds on that one if you want. But setting one up is real simple. You give it a name. I leave it on the home page. Identify whoever's going to be responsible for making sure the emails go out. Actually, that's what this is all about, is just making sure that you have a place to go look and say, hey, did it do the thing? And that's what this will show you. And you can literally look at the emails here in a second. All right. In here, you can go in what I like to call test mode. I can say, send me or send the Oasis users the email. And then when I'm ready, I do my test and everything's set up. It looks like we're getting the shipping on the orders and everything like that correct. More on that in a second. Then I can click this little button here and say, not only send it to me, but also send it out to the customers. So I get to see what's going on before I actually, turn it on in production, if you will. Okay. We did a couple of filters on this. Because we've, again, talking with people, sometimes I end up with a customer service person or project manager, if you will, and they're interested in doing something like this because they kind of know the routine. Instead of doing a spreadsheet, you manually email, you just have Oasis send it out and be done with it. Or I've had other cases where there's one office that wants to do something like this, but the other one isn't set up for some reason. Maybe there's just not enough presence there to mess with it or whatever. But again, that allows within the company to say, okay, the Cabot, Arkansas office, I guess, since we're so, we're a little tiny group, but if I was saying this office is ready to go, but the Memphis office isn't ready to go. Maybe we don't have an office there, but if we did, that would be the case. But that allows us to divide this up so we don't have to go and figure everything out right up, right up front across the entire company. Okay. So that's the setup of this. With this tile, I'll also say the goal is to send your customer an email. And I'm sorry, I didn't do much of the PowerPoint on this, but the whole goal is to send your customer an initial email that says, thank you for your order. And then after that, every time there's a shipping update, it's scheduled to ship on, next month or whatever. And then once it ships, it says, well, here's, thank you for your order. Here's the shipping information. Click here for the tracking info and see what's going on there. That's exactly what this thing is sent to do, or set up to do. Now, what we want you to think about, though, is do you have processes in places to make sure you get shipping information on all your orders? That's the key thing on this to make it work, is making sure all that shipping information goes. A lot of you have downloads from at least your major manufacturer that pulls in shipping information directly into Oasis, and that gives you a major lift. And then just stacking up the rest of the process and make sure that everything else is in there. And at that point, you're ready to go. Now, what I do like to see people do is, again, on that beta test, make sure it's going, or not our beta test, but your beta test, make sure it's checked so you're seeing the emails first, and then later you can send them out. Okay. Last prerequisite for this thing is you have to have the customer portal to actually send the customer shipping updates out. The reason for that is the email that goes out, I'll show you it here in a second, does have links back to the main portal, in other words, customer portal. So everything's in there. Thank you for your order, just like when you shop online at all the major places, and you can click back, see the order in its completeness in the portal. But the only thing we send in the email is a shipping update. Type A just shipped. Type B, we don't say anything about it because there haven't been any updates, but all that information is on the web part. So, all right, lots of details there. Any questions, Trinity? Otherwise, I'm just going to show you how it works.
Yes, we did have one.
Okay.
Is this only available on the web-based version of Oasis? Is it available on the desktop version?
This is web-based only. We tried and found that doing things remote like that are very, very difficult, and it just has to do with keeping servers online and managing everything. So unfortunately, this is all 04 only, or the web-based version of Oasis. And you have to have the customer portal on this as well, because of the way everything links together. So I'll show that here in a second, and it should become a little more obvious here real quick. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, home screen here.
None so far.
Perfect. Okay. So the main thing for the tile is to generate an email. So what is somebody going to see? Unlike the follow-up tile over here, the goal of the follow-up tile is to give me a list of things to do. Well, the shipping notification tile, it just sends stuff out. So what is there to do? Well, the main thing is to monitor for issues, okay? Email issues mostly. And first thing it does, it shows the number of orders scanned, okay? So only 46 orders in my system, but there's probably thousands in your system that are what I'll call active. So normally it's over the last 45 days. Any order that's been updated over the last 45 days that hasn't been closed will be what we consider an active order that we'll scan, okay? The first green check is the number of orders, and again, this is my test database, there's not much to it, are the number of orders where there's no update. In other words, it's fine, okay? Actually, a little bit of a, I'm trying to skip something detail here, but there's no orders that are just, kind of sitting there without anything to do, okay? Now, because I have some closed orders under there. The 18 orders here, the 18 orders that it wants to send an email out because there's been a shipping change or it's a brand new order or something like that, and it tried to send 18 orders. Now they're queued up. I didn't let them go because I just didn't want to do that. And I'll show you where you can see that here in a second. But there's 7 orders where there were issues with the emails going out. And that's really the main thing you have to do here is just monitor this for whatever the X is. The X says there's something I need to go take a look at. So let's take a look at this thing on what happens. When I click into it, there'll be a list of order or a list of customers in here. And what it's trying to show you is I have a customer. There are 12 active orders. And again, this is a test database, so I have things kind of baked up a little bit here. There are 12 updates. In other words, each one of these is an order with a shipping update or a brand new order, okay? And there are 2 of them that have errors, 2 orders that have errors in here, okay? If I click into it, I'll see the customer and all the orders that they have, and it'll tell me exactly what's going on here. And here's how you read this. You have the PO number, the manufacturer name, the last time an email was sent out. Now I reset my system, so there are no emails that went out previously, but in reality, it would show, basically the day after you sent the order over the factory, there'd probably be a last email, whatever that date is in there. And then the last update will either be the last time you updated the system or the last time you had a shipping update. And what that means is every time there's an update after the last email goes out, it will review it to see if there's actually a shipping update it needs to notify the customer on or not. So that's really what it's trying to show you here is if you have no updates after the last email, obviously you're going to send anything out. So it's just kind of helping you see when it sent an email and when it didn't. The reason why this is important is customers will often call up and say, hey, I didn't get the email. And what we find out is it hits their junk folder or whatever. But the main thing is it allows you to see the update process here. This one does have an update, doesn't have an error, and it says there is an email queued up for John Doe. Let's take a look at that real quick. So let's click into this. It shows the order again, and it'll show every single email that it sent out for that order. Okay, so here's one that's going, and this is kind of a bogus name here, but if I click into it, it'll show me the actual email that it sent out. It actually queued up. So sorry, this one still has the null bug in there. Long story. But the main thing, it shows my company logo as it's set up in Oasis. It has a link back to the portal. Okay, it has a link to my main website and my phone number. Okay. It has a little bit of a banner up here, and you will be able to change this text, by the way, in a few weeks. Basically, the next update will have that. And it has the name of your company. Sorry, this is all made up stuff here. It has the PO number, and it says who is the customer service person on here. It has the ship to information. I'm sorry, I kind of made a lot of this stuff up real quick, but it does have ship to customer address information here. Okay, it has the email address of my customer service person. It has, in this case, it's just it's just showing very basic information here. It's scheduled to ship on October 6th. Obviously, there's bogus information in there because it's well past October 6th, but normally it's say like December or whenever that was in there. Okay. Also, this is a good reason to have the order monitor tile to tell you if you have some weird stuff like this happening on your orders before you have issues out there. Okay. Now, the other thing is this will only have the updates to that order. So if something ships, or in this case, 1 item out of 20 got scheduled, the other 19 are already scheduled or already shipped or whatever, the only way I can see the rest of the order is to click on and this is again a test system, so it won't go anywhere, but I can click on the entire, this link here and see the entire PO, or I can click here and see all the POs associated with that job pulled together. Okay. And there's a nice legend that shows all the details here as well. Okay. Any questions there? Okay, let's go back to the customer. If you do have an issue, it'll tell you exactly what's going on here. So in this case, I have get into resale order in here and it identifies it as that, but there's no contact on that order. There's no contacts that it can see it, send an email to. So it tells you exactly what's going on there. The way you change it or resolve that is you can actually go in and edit the order. So again, if you have 04 all set up, I can go right here, clicking into the order and add a contact to the order. So, and again, that's one reason why I was hoping to do the training on the order system here, but that's not for today. Okay. Go back here.
We had one question asking how to get access to the web version. I'll go ahead and take this one. You can go ahead and email support@oasissalessoftware.com and you can just say, hey, Trinity, let's talk about the web version and I can talk to you about that.
So to use all these tools, by the way, you can continue to use, we call it, we kind of call it legacy Oasis. So you can continue using legacy Oasis and build processes around that. And then you can add, talk to Trinity about the web version, or 04 is what we like to say. And as part of that are these tools. By the way, you do not have to have the portal to test it. In other words, what we found early on is some users wanted to basically get the emails themselves and then at least begin by forwarding them over to their customers. Later, you can actually get the portal and actually turn that on, but you have to have the portal is also on that to send the emails to the customers. So if it's customer facing, you have to have the portal. Otherwise, you can just use it internally. Okay. All right. That is pretty much it. This stuff runs at night. I can't remember the exact time. It can actually be tricked to run at various times throughout the day, but that's the bulk of it there. A lot of updates. We want to do this as far as refinements and details coming in from our beta users already. But the main thing is it's there. It's available for you. And if you have any questions, do contact support. Let me go through my list real quick, because I think I made it through the goals. And this is probably the main thing, is basically what most people are expecting now. So if you order something online, that's basically what this thing does. Thank you for your order, and then shipping updates, and right up until it actually ships everyone. And went through all the details there. I think we are done, actually. So if you have any questions, said it before, but support@oasissalessoftware.com, or just call the main number 501-843-6750. And that's it for this year. There are no more webinars on the schedule for that. And look for your newsletter, and we'll have the next webinar, hopefully on orders and a few other things we have queued up, some other neat stuff we hadn't told anybody about. So cool. Any other questions? Otherwise, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.